let's jump right in with passing yards. And I'll start with you, Brandon. What do you think is the kind of target number you're looking for when you're betting on a market like this?
Yeah, so I look at when I'm doing projections, kind of looking at trends in recent years. So I noticed 2017 to 2018, there's a real jump in passing number. So I'm really focusing just on the last 4 years. Big jump in passing attempts. Obviously, we now have the 17th game. So last 4 years, we've had at least 5 guys that averaged a 4,800 yard pace. Our winner has averaged a 300 yard pace. So that's 5,100 yards. It's a lot of yards. We had a very tight race last year. We actually had a Tom Brady winner on the version of this podcast from a year ago. So I think basically we're looking at, we need a 5 in front of the number. We need a 5,000. So yeah, I'm curious, Raybon, when you do your projections, I'm mostly projecting high end here, just like the positive end outcomes more so than just a media and a fantasy type outcome. How do you project high end when you're looking at them?
Without going into, well, I mean, you said you wanted to talk some math. So there are kind of distributions where you can plug, what would essentially be those median projections into, and to get a high end projection. I'm also, when I'm projecting for quarterbacks, I generally still project about a half a missed game. So the first thing I'll do is, put his games up to 17 and then, kind of run it through some numbers. But essentially, you are kind of just looking for the player with, it's not just the highest median yardage, but, also a very efficient player, so you want the yards to attempt to be high because you're also projecting medians and attempts and all those things. So if the attempts, the completions, the air yards, if the usage goes up, then you have a better shot. So that's kind of how you're looking at it. But I think you're on the right track with that. You're probably going to need 5,000 yards unless a lot of high end quarterbacks get hurt.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I have 6 guys that I project high-end outcomes at 5,000 yards. So 4 of them are the 4 favorites here: Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow. No real surprises. Like, look, we know who the good quarterbacks are. We know who's going to be near the top of these races, barring an injury. I don't really feel like that's the way to play these markets, though, because it's going to be really close, and you're betting on someone at like a 7, 8, 10 to 1 odds over a long season. You got to fade the injury. Hope you win by like 100 yards. Hope they're not too good, so they sat out week 17. So I can't hate those bets, but I have 2 other guys at 5,000 plus. So those are my bets. My top projection actually is Dak Prescott, and that's my top play. I have him at 1,400. So like you said, I'm looking at pass attempts. I'm looking at yards per attempt, and that's where I like Dak Prescott. So he should get, I think, to about 675 attempts if he's healthy. Last 2 seasons, he averaged almost 40 attempts a game. So last year, his yards per attempt dropped way off. He was at 8.3 the previous 2, dropped down to 7.5 last year. So if you keep the passing attempts where he's been recently and then get a little, spike in efficiency somewhat, probably not back that high. We know Tyron Smith is out. We know that's going to hurt the passing numbers. Amari Cooper is gone. But I think Dallas's defense, we expect to be worse this year. They're probably playing a little bit from more negative game position, so should be a little bit more passing there. I think Dak Prescott's volume has gone up, and we haven't quite noticed as much because the efficiency has dropped. But if that starts to balance out too, I have him at 5,100, 81 yards. That's my leader right now. So at plus 1,400, I gotta like that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about Dak in this offense. I'm hearing that they want to run the ball more because the loss in the receiver room, with Amari Cooper gone and Gallup, obviously not starting the year right. They lost and they just lost a lot of guys. I think they're going to run more, but I don't know. I think those splits with and without Tyron Smith are pretty scary to me, more so than anything. So I think I would have liked Dak a lot more before the Tyron Smith news, especially because I still think Dallas, they're still going to have a pretty solid defense. And that's another thing I kind of look for. So, with Dak, I think just that Tyron Smith injury. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the splits, but it's like legitimate the difference between like a good team and a bad team, a good offense and a bad offense when he's on and off the field. So, I mean, things could go poorly for the Cowboys, and that's how he hits it. But I'd be worried about him a little bit. But who else you got?
Well, I'm curious, Jill, you're our Cowboys guy. What do you think of this one?
I think you hit it right on the head. I think both you guys did. I brought this up on a podcast earlier, just talking about what the opponent pass rush rate is when Tyron plays and when he doesn't, and it increases like on an average of like 15% per game. And you don't think about it as like, oh, 15%, that shouldn't be that much. But then you just watch at the way that the offense completely collapses when you don't have the blind side protected. And Dak needs pretty much almost everything to go right a lot of the time for him to be successful. If you even go back to 2 years ago when he was coming in with that ankle injury before he broke his foot and ankle, he was up there from a pass attempt standpoint and up there from a passing yard standpoint. But again, Tyron was missing time even in those games. And you could see it, and it kind of cost him where maybe he was trying to do a little bit too much. But I do think the defense as well, while I would say that they are a good defense, they're the type of defense that will allow the big play. They will allow teams to get back into it, which would then lend itself to Dak having to do a little bit more offensively and racking up those passing yards. So I don't hate this play at all.
All right, well, let's go from your quarterback to mine. So my other pick here is Kirk Cousins. I have him also over 5,000 yards. And I think here what you like is the Kevin O'Connell edition. We know what the offense is. We know who these guys are. Justin Jefferson, as good as any receiver in the NFL right now. Adam Thielen, healthy to start the year at least, is a very strong second receiver. But what you're looking for here is a Matt Ryan season from last year. Or sorry, a Matt Stafford from last year. A Matt Ryan.
It's like a Matt Ryan. No.
Yeah, no, we don't want Matt Ryan from last year. No, thank you. So the volume should uptick here. There's a lot of talk that Minnesota could be passing more, but I think the efficiency is what you really want here. Again, Kirk Cousins, 7.5 yards per attempt last year. He was over 8 the previous 2. And I think that's an area that I expect to especially take a real jump this year. The offensive line should improve. Christian Darrisaw was a big leap toward the middle of the season, improving as the year went on. And I think they move Jefferson, especially all over the field in that Cooper Kupp role. Spoiler alert, we're going to get a lot of Vikings talk on this one. And it's not homerism. I'm usually a pessimist on my Vikings, but I just think this offense could be really good. I have an article that went up last week at Action Network ranking offenses. I have the Vikings in the top quartile of the league. I have them like 7th or 8th offensively. So Kirk Cousins is plus 2,000. I think that he's not going to necessarily have like a 5,500 yard ceiling. I don't think he can quite match some of these other guys, but he could be a guy that he's going to need to play all 17 and is in the mix there. I like that. Raybon, you like that?
Yeah, I like that. You like that? No, but Kirk Cousins is usually the guy when I was asked kind of all off season, give me a pick at like a long shot pick in this category. Kirk Cousins was the guy I'd look to as well, because I think that Kevin O'Connell addition and just having Justin Jefferson is big. And then, like you said, Kirk Cousins has shown he's capable of the efficiency. He's going to have to let it go deep down the field a little bit more, but he's kind of shown he can do that a little more when he has the right receiver. So I think another guy that would be key to him kind of stepping up and doing this is Amir Smith Marset. If he could kind of take that leap, because he's got a lot of talent and he could give them something as that number 4 receiver. I think that'll help Cousins get to this number. He's got Irv Smith at the tight end position, a guy who can get some yardage. So I like the Cousins play. That's the kind of the guy I would look at. And there's a couple others. I think Russell Wilson, first of all, at 25-1, I think is really interesting because he led the league in average depth of target last year. Now he's coming to a place where they're going to kind of open the offense up more for him, and they made a concerted effort to add speed to this offense with Montrell Washington. They getting KJ Hamler back, even Jalen Virgil, the guy they kept in the receiver room. He's a speed guy too. So they have a lot of guys who I think can go downfield. Cortland Sutton, obviously, and Albert O even. So I think that he's a kind of a dark horse as well. And then Joe Burrow at 9-1. I mean, I think the Bengals defense could still be kind of and you look at the quarterbacks that can kind of combine the efficiency with volume. And I think now with the Bengals improving their offensive line, I think they could go super pass heavy. I think last year, we kind of complained why are the Bengals running so much? Even when Burrow was having his big games, they still kind of went back to running the ball a lot more than maybe people thought they should. But their pass rate did go up as the year progressed. And I think now with protection, this could be a team that, throws, 650, 700 times. And we've already seen them put up, the 400 type yard game. So I think Burrow's kind of in play as well.
Yeah, I like Burrow as well. You know, I think last year from week 14 forward, the Bengals jumped from something like 17th in pass rate to 7th, and then up even higher if you look at the playoff numbers. So I was surprised. I was expecting from ending last season, I was all set to fade the Bengals, fade Joe Burrow. I was ready to get off of the hype wagon. And the numbers stand up, and it is not just a playoff breakout. Like, it really happened all season long. He's up near the top of a lot of the metrics. I'm kind of thinking the Bengals forward as something akin to the Peyton Manning Colts. And maybe that's a little too soon already. But when you have a quarterback whose numbers are that good and this good of receivers, I think they're always going to be in play. I do like the Broncos. I just like them for some of the other plays coming up here.